I'm ready to go. And if I'm not sure if you are sharing your screen just because I'm on the Zoom for phone. Um,
Yeah, I can go ahead and start sharing. Let me put
Perfect.
this in presentation mode.
Dope.
All right. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, I can see it through the Zoom app, so that's really helpful. Great. Well, thank you so much, Anne, for sharing your screen, and welcome everybody who's just joined or who might be joining in just a second, or watching on the YouTube channel. My name is Gia Chinchilla, and I'm the founder of Climate Action Lab, and I'm so excited to be here today with my teammate Anne. And we are just thrilled to be invited for the Los Angeles Community College District Climate Action and Justice speaker series. Really is truly an honor, and it's been exciting just seeing all of the other presentations that have been taking place the past month or so. So a huge shout out to Chloe for organizing this effort and the other team members involved with this. But that being said, Anne, if you could switch to our next slide. So as a reminder, I am the founder and chief strategy officer for Climate Action Lab. So by day, I am a clean technology consultant. I work for a clean energy and clean transportation consulting firm in Santa Monica. And I've been there for about a year and a half ever since I graduated from UCLA in 2019. And I will go a little deeper into that in our background story, since it does tie a little bit into like our founding. But that is what I do by day. And then all time afterwards is spent running Climate Action Lab. So I'm really more so of an overseer. So I oversee day-to-day operations. I'm also just making sure that the content that we're pushing out stays true to like our brand, authenticity. I work really closely with Anne, who you're going to hear from in just a moment, on again content strategy and making sure that the stories that we're posting really hit the nail on the head, really align with our mission statement, and really speak to a broad audience. And finally, I also oversee potential, partnerships that we have. I work closely with one of our teammates, Diana, who's not with us today, and not only growing Climate Action Lab's scope, but also making sure that we are creating action items for our community and our followers, to take really climate action. So that's what I do with Climate Action Lab. And Anne, you're more than welcome to give your introduction. And I believe you might be muted.
Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
So hi everyone, my name is Ann Nguyen, and by day I'm a coastal policy analyst for the California Coastal Commission, which is a state agency that protects public access and coastal resources. And the rest of the time, I'm an avid follower of all things climate with Climate Action Lab. So for Climate Action Lab, I've kind of lead content curation, review all of our editorial that gets pushed out. And then I oversee the research that goes into our Climate Action Lab story, which we'll dive into a little bit deeper soon.
Great. Thank you, Anne, for that introduction, and perfect. Thanks for taking us to that next slide. But really quickly, before we talk about what Climate Action Lab does, our pillars, and the type of content that we push out, I wanted to give everybody a quick just introduction into why Climate Action Lab was founded. Like I mentioned, I started Climate Action Lab right after graduating from UCLA in 2019, and it was in this interim period between school and finding a full-time job, as I know some of you might be, in trying to complete yourselves, or maybe you're thinking about transferring, maybe you are in this interim period as well. But I really wanted to take opportunity of downtime that I had in between my studies and honestly create something that I wanted to see on my own Instagram. So at the time while I was studying at UCLA, I was interning for the mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti's Office of Sustainability, and we had just released the LA Green New Deal, which is so exciting. And following its launch, we were deploying different marketing campaigns, and all of these campaigns were focused towards adults, and it was kind of sad to see that youth weren't involved. So I kind of pulled my supervisor aside and I said, "Hey, this is really great that we're reaching so many different organizations, X, Y, and Z, but I don't really see youth engagement. How are we going to get youth involved in just accepting the LA Green New Deal and then like taking action around it? Like this is such an untapped population of Los Angeles, that we're neglecting." So my boss was kind of like, "All right, go for it. Like, come up with a strategy, come up with a campaign." So that was kind of what sparked the idea of like, well, how do young people consume information? And when I talk with my friends, the answer amongst ourselves was social media. Like, if I could be very honest, like, I think a lot of us here might feel that the first thing we check in the day and at night is our Instagram and our Twitter. Even if that's a habit we don't want to have, that just ends up being really the case. Um, and I thought about just personally, like when I do log in the morning, I do see a lot of major news stories break first on Twitter or Instagram, and then thereafter I'll go ahead and do just kind of like my deep research. But social media really is a great way to just get your toes wet and be introduced to a new topic. I think that's really the beauty of it. So again, thinking about how young people consume information, thinking about Instagram, and just thinking about, how can we create a space online that just feels good to visit, that feels empowering. Like, while yes, it's informing us about a very depressing fact, the fact that our climate is warming, and the fact that some people are not acknowledging it and our government isn't acknowledging it. How could we still create this positive space online that, yes, informs you about the negative things that are happening, but how we could also take action from it? So all of that to say, I immediately was like, okay, I'm going to start an Instagram, surrounded, around climate issues in Los Angeles. So that is a little bit of our backstory, and then a year and a half later, we are now nearing 4,000 followers. And if you could go and switch to our next slide, this kind of transitions me to our mission statement, and this is on our page as well. But essentially, we began Climate Action Lab because we understand how now more than ever, social media has played a pivotal role in spreading awareness about social justice movements. And by amplifying voices, rallying folks under the same cause, and shining a light on the intersection of climate and equity, we're aiming to inspire young Angelenos to take action in their communities. So again, the page really is action oriented. And if we could switch to the next slide, Anne. I wanted to talk about the 4 pillars that really make up Climate Action Lab, and our content will fall under each of these 4 pillars. Oh, sorry, that was my phone. So our content will fall under each of these 4 pillars, and I'm happy to give a quick, brief overview of each of them. But Anne and I are gonna be hopping back and forth on presenting on each of them. But essentially, again, our 4 pillars are to inform, to highlight, to normalize, and to organize. And again, as a reminder, all of the content that we push out or any of the events that we plan touch on each of these 4 pillars. And that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Anne, who's going to walk you through the first 2.
So yeah, thanks, Gia. So to dive deeper into that first pillar, we seek to inform our community about environmental wins and losses in Los Angeles and even beyond sometimes. To do this, we break down and produce weekly news stories surrounding climate wins and losses in the region. We know that reading headlines can be pretty overwhelming or daunting a lot of the time, so we use this opportunity to make news, facts, new policies, etc., more digestible and relatable. So a large part of this pillar is understanding that there is so much power in education, and the first step in getting folks to understand the gravity of the climate crisis is equipping them with the relevant knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So I want to use this post as an example to walk you through our process here. Firstly, myself and the team are always keeping our eyes peeled for new happenings in the climate sphere, and especially when it relates to Los Angeles and California. Our local focus helps folks understand that climate change isn't really like this far off thing that's happening in the Arctic, right? It's definitely happening in our own backyards. And to do this, we follow kind of this process where we follow trustworthy news, media outlets, and organizations directly involved in the work on the ground. And like GS said, this could be like following reporters on Twitter, seeing posts on Instagram. And when we find something that's really timely and relevant, we break it down for our community in a captivating and shareable post. So, with this specific story regarding the recent wildfires, um, I kept seeing the media call the situation like unprecedented, and it was like it was happening in every single headline we saw across news
Mhm.
channels. And while this is really true, I wanted to highlight how unprecedented climate events are our new normal, and climate change has exacerbated events like wildfires and storms and will continue to do so if action isn't taken. So in this story, which you can find on our IG feed, we highlight key statistics, define what technical terms mean, like in this case, what a compound climate event is, and then we visualize what this means through graphics and visuals, and then highlight what next steps can be taken. And in this case, it is to honor and follow Indigenous knowledge and tribal management of the land. And our informative stories can range from this, like climate news or new policies that come out, or things that are just happening in Los Angeles, like the recent methane leaks. And it really ranges. And we also like to highlight positive wins, like Governor Newsom's recent call for electric vehicles transition by 2035, and so on. And with that, I want to hop into our next pillar, which is to highlight. And we do this by highlighting community members who are making very real and conscious efforts to improve the well-being of their community. Um, and a climate action lab hero is someone who takes climate action in their everyday choices. It's someone who gives back to their community through volunteership, rallies or protests, maybe even leads a low waste lifestyle, takes public transit, or uses their social media to educate others. And our goal here is to really show that truly anyone can be a climate hero and that each of us can make a difference. For example, here we highlight Natalie Flores, who founded Nourish LA, and she founded it as a direct result of the COVID-19 crisis to prevent food from going to landfills and instead to the hungry bellies of our neighbors. And Nourish also focuses on passing out organic seedlings to encourage locally grown food. And their ultimate goal is to build a plant hub in every neighborhood so folks can receive food and gain access to organic plants and gardening skills. So far, they've been feeding around like 1,000 people every weekend, which is truly amazing. And it's just really impactful and meaningful work that we feel shows our community what climate action can look like, and it can be diverse. And I'll hand it back over to Gia for our next pillar.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anne. I couldn't have said it any better. But like Anne mentioned, our third pillar is to normalize. And personally, I think this is the most fun one, if not the fourth one, which I'll touch in just a moment. But really, and in California, I think we already see this, in our day-to-day conversations with friends, but the conversation around climate change could be daunting, especially if you don't believe it, if it's something that you were never taught in school, or if your close circles, aren't making it a part of the day-to-day conversation, right? But thankfully, in California, I think that there is a narrative already that um, we have accepted the fact that climate change is here, it is now, and it is happening. But for the folks, or for the people who are still kind of struggling, our purpose and our aim is to make content that's really relatable and captures, the dark side of climate change, but again, makes it more digestible by making it, using the irony of the situation, right? Using sarcasm, using satire. And really, what's really powerful about humor and meme culture is that it spreads really quickly and has this sort of viral effect. So again, we want to make, content that, yeah, you could share with your friends, that gives you a laugh because maybe how sad it is, the fact that, this thing is happening. But again, by using humor, it sometimes breaks the ice and makes talking about climate change or these other hard pressing issues easier to have. So, for example, right here, we have my Queen Lizzo, like in a meme format here, and you'll see that throughout our page as well. Not just this Lizzo meme, but we'll kind of pull content from Twitter. There, people really go off on Twitter, and we really do love the memes that are there also. But another format that we use to normalize the conversation is Reels. Or TikToks, right? So these are these like short, and I'm sure everybody here knows what Reels and TikToks are, but they're short video content. And again, those two also tell a really powerful story. So our team has just been working kind of around the clock to develop some reels, whether they're informative or how-to guides. I know Anne here, she created this really great reel around Coastal Cleanup Day and actions you could take around showing up at your local beach and cleaning up. But also, one of our other teammates did a reel on how to reupholster her furniture. And again, the purpose of creating fun content really is to ease the conversation around climate change. But if we could go to the next slide. And this fourth pillar, which is to organize, is something that kind of came to a halt because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But really, the this fourth goal was actually added after our founding and after several months of the team kind of organizing together. But we realized it's imperative not only to have these conversations around climate change online and to build those relationships, but it means so much more to actually take our relationships made in the digital sphere and take them into, in person and around action oriented events. So our fourth goal is to organize a space for young Angelenos to convene on raising awareness. And we were able, thankfully, to do this right before the COVID-19 pandemic back in early 2020. We hosted an LA Green New Deal panel, and the purpose of the event, in partnership with several organizations at UCLA, was to hear from young climate leaders in the community. So everybody on the panel is working in the sustainability industry, and they were able to share, their knowledge, right, on the LA Green New Deal. And really, the purpose of this panel was to get young folks excited about the LA Green New Deal, and even just talk about, where it fell flat, and if there's anything that maybe our city needs to do to better include young people and the young voice. So that was an exciting event. We had about 80 folks in attendance, and we also live streamed the event on Instagram as well, and received some great questions via the IG live feed. And again, this is something that we would love to do safely, moving forward in 2021, just because there is something to be said about that in-person experience that could really inspire folks afterwards to take climate action on their own. I know after this event that we had here that you're seeing, a lot of the attendees came up to us afterwards, or even reached out digitally and shared, how much they had learned, or how much they were going to be sharing the information that they heard, with their friends. And again, I'm happy to say that all the folks here on this panel are now, I would say, close friends and supporters of Climate Action Lab, which is super exciting. Okay, and we can move on to the next point. And Anne, I'm going to go ahead and let you speak to this, but Anne's going to speak on a recent campaign strategy that Climate Action Lab just pushed.
Thanks, Gia. So, um, like we said before, like with our regular content, we do a lot of news, memes, reels, tweets, and just normalizing and getting that conversation going around climate. But with the election going on, we decided to kind of um, turn our direction more into voter education. And we thought this was really important because, yes, there's a presidential election going on, but in tandem with that, local elections not are also really important in making change and positive impact in your own community. So we decided to kind of educate our audience on what the props will be on the California ballot. And this came out in a 4-week series where we used each week to cover 3 or so props that were coming out on the California ballot. And here we don't take a specific stance, but more so educate voters on what these props are going to be about and what it might mean for the community and what a yes vote would mean or a no vote would mean. And we don't endorse certain decisions, but we encourage voters like, hey, we're presenting you with these facts and what's being laid out in front of you. And we really encourage you to make your voting plan and to do your research and decide what the best decision and what you'd like to see in California's future. And then we continue to do so later in LA specific posts where we lay out what will be on the LA County ballot. And then we're continuing our education through just like new occurrences on LA County measures and candidates and phone baking. So the effort lives on, and this has been a really great opportunity for our community to be introduced to voting if it might be their first time. So yeah, maybe Gia, if you want to speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah, no, I think you covered that perfectly. And again, this was really in our conversations, I would say, back even in early summer, the team and I were discussing, whether or not we would be touching on the election, but we realized any opportunity to utilize our platform to get people to practice their civic duty, like, of course, we're absolutely going to do. So, yes, while, maybe the focus of Climate Action Lab as of recently has been less on climate policy and more on, voter engagement and how to get people out on November 3rd or, preferably earlier, to submit their to submit their ballots early. Like, we definitely wanted to go ahead and do that. And again, it does tie back at the end of the day to climate action. We recently did a post, a little I voted sticker that says voting is climate action is climate action, which I definitely couldn't agree more with. But yeah, that's all I could say to the voter education series. Okay. And I don't, yeah, I could hop in here. That is an overview of what Climate Action Lab does and the content that we've been pushing out the past year and a half. In terms of just next steps and where the page is going, we recently, I would say, doubled the size of our team and are looking to continuously expand. We are looking to bring on more people who are eager and excited about telling climate stories in the LA area and also beyond as well. We are currently in the midst of several exciting partner projects that we can't quite speak to on specifically yet, but all centered around climate action. And will be launching a website soon where you can find more information about Climate Action Lab perhaps action-oriented events that you could see in the area, as well as take a deep dive into the incredible stories that Anne and her team have developed over the past year and moving forward. We'll also have a section on the website as well where you could get to know the heroes that we have featured in the past, as well as any upcoming ones, and definitely the possibility for more exciting content and more engaging content with the community. Again, really, the purpose of Climate Action Lab is just to show anybody that you can be a climate hero. It doesn't matter how much or how little you do. No one is perfect in this. And one thing I always like to tell people is that, if I could do it, really anybody can. Growing up, not seeing someone like myself in the climate movement, I didn't want to let that deter me. So I wanted to go ahead and create that seed the table for myself, if you will. And it's been incredible to work alongside Anne and our other team members who also feel the same. With that being said, Anne and I are happy to answer any questions you might have. And thank you again for this opportunity to speak. Anne, do you want to add anything in before we finish?
I think you really summed it up perfectly, Gia. And yeah, and moving forward, we're really excited to take Climate Action Lab in different platforms and different
Yeah.
spaces. And like Gia said, climate action is for everybody, whether you think so or not. It's just a matter of getting your toes a little bit wet, and
Mhm.
you can also be there too.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gian and for this like beautiful presentation. I know obviously this is like your expertise, but wow, just like so visually stunning.
We'll
Um,
have to tell our teammate Diana that you said that. We'll relay the thanks.
please do. I was so excited to have Diana potentially present today too. But it's like so cool to hear about all of the work that you all do together. So for everyone who's on this, maybe like live or, asynchronously, I follow the Climate Action Lab account and I'm a huge fan. And one of the things in terms of, you guys do a great job of like, uplifting and highlighting local organizations, like not only in the content that you create, but you guys like constantly are sharing from other pages to that kind of, highlight actions you can take within the local community. So you do a really good job of just like bringing all of this information from all over LA together, which I really appreciate. I get a lot of my climate news from your Instagram account, and I'm really excited to see you guys sort of expand into this website. Um, Gia, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your sort of path. I know that you're a CC transfer student yourself, so I was just wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit about that background and like maybe going to UCLA and like that kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I was wondering whether or not I would touch on that in the beginning, and I was like, I'll leave that part out just in case we need time to get through our half hour together, but I'm more than happy to share. Chloe is right. I am a transfer student. I went to community college right after high school. The smartest decision, I still stand by it, that I ever did. I am a huge advocate, proponent of my community college. I went to it's not an LACCD community college. I went to Chaffey, which is about 45 minutes outside of LA. But honestly, again, the best decision financially and just for where I was in my academic and professional journey. I had only heard back from one university after high school, and it was a private school, and it was just way too much money. And this was something that a lot of my friends and I, struggled with. Like, are we going to be pulling out these loans? And while all my friends did, I felt very uncomfortable being 18 years old pulling out such large loans. So I decided to do the community college thing. And I think there was a sort of stigma in my high school around folks who went to community college, and I wanted to. So every time that so I told someone, "Hey, I'm going to CC," everybody kind of looked at me funny, but I really wanted to be an example of someone who could successfully navigate the system, use the breadth of tools and resources that are at community colleges, and use that really, for my benefit, and also just I think give it back to my CC. So I had the best 2 years. I learned so much. I was able to be a part of an honors program and work closely with a lot of different faculty. Again, I feel like I'm a salesperson for community college, but I really absolutely had the best experience overall. And thanks to my mentors at CC, I was able to transfer to UCLA, which I think really set me up for success in the 2 years that I was at university. I know a lot of transfer students um, might feel that 2 years is not enough at the CC, which I mean, at the university, which is true to some degree, but because you know how to hustle, I think any community college kid feels this really hard. You know how to hustle, what it's like to work and go to school and do the things to transfer. Not that 4 year students don't have that as well, but I definitely recognize in community college kids that these kids really know how to hustle. So I entered into UCLA with exactly knowing what I wanted to do. As I know, maybe the first few years, folks are just kind of like having fun or kind of figuring out. And I definitely utilized my 2 years there. And I knew that I didn't want to get involved in sustainability, in taking sort of climate action. So I had my game plan. And when I got in, I was able to really just, again, tap into the institutes at UCLA. And yeah, while I was at UCLA, I worked for several different places. I was a part of UCLA Institute's environment and sustainability. Sorry, the names are so long, and that's where I really got my feet wet with digital content creation. I was working on their website, and just kind of like writing blog posts about like postdoc scholars and faculty doing kick-ass research, all over the world. And then following that, I was a assistant communications manager for UCLA Sustainable LA Grand Challenge. And that was a partner sort of institute with the city of LA, which was super exciting. That really talked about how do we get LA to carbon neutrality by 2050. Personally, I think we could get there sooner than that, but that was the goal of the institute at the time. So there, I was also really a part of storytelling and organizing events surrounding just taking climate action and how UCLA is imperative in the climate movement in Los Angeles. Yeah, in terms of just getting our city to the goals it needs to meet. And then finally too, I also, through that job, I was able to intern at the city of Los Angeles's office. So UCLA was just a great 2 years. Sorry, that was such a long answer.
No, thank you. Yeah, I just like wanted to highlight that you're also, I mean, you're a climate like action hero, but you're also like a CC climate action hero.
Oh.
And like I hope everyone who like comes away from walking with these presentations is like really inspired to do the same thing. And I also just wanted to say I really appreciate how local like climate action lab, like LAB is. So I know you're talking about expanding, but are you hoping to see like climate action labs for like, cities all across the country one day? Or like, do you have like a sort of vision on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, Anne, you're also more than welcome to answer this as well, but I could go ahead and kick it off. We've had conversations about like what satellite spaces. In fact, some of our team members are not in the LA area since we've recently expanded. We have folks on the East Coast as well. And especially with Diana, who's so integral to Climate Action Lab's success, who's not with us today. She is on the East Coast now as well in Connecticut. And I think that's definitely an idea that we have on the radar. But in terms of deploying it, I think we're really going to need to get into full gear here. But Anne, let me know if I hit the nail on the head on that one.
Yeah, definitely. I think would be a great potential, but for right now, we really value focusing on the local matters in LA, especially, and even just and beyond in California. California on its own has so many innovative ideas and policies that we think it's really valuable to highlight here for now. And Maybe one day when we do have the capacity to do so, you can see us farther. But for now, we definitely like our home base in LA in California.
Yeah. No, and Anne, you bring up a great point that I'd love to echo. California, especially, I mean, like Los Angeles too, is on the forefront of climate action. Like globally, cities and countries all over the world look to what California is doing. And we really set a precedent. So I think in having Climate Action Lab focus on LA issues speaks to the point earlier that Anne was making, that yes, it reminds us that climate action or climate change is happening here and now in our backyard. So that really, I think, is our focus of wanting to keep it local and be, there's climate news every day in our state. So
Totally true. There's so much to cover here all of the time. So if students want to get involved with your work, I know you just said you're like looking to expand your team. Can CC students apply to get involved with your program, and where would they do that? Do they DM you on Instagram, or like what's the platform for that?
absolutely. So students, if they're interested in an internship, we don't have exact positions yet, but we are, ongoing accepting applications. They can email us at climateactionlabwork@gmail.com. It is a long one. We are happy to send that over to you, Chloe, if you want to share it on the YouTube page for this recording. But folks could really, send their resume or their experience there, or shoot us a DM. I mean, like we're on Instagram, so that works too.
Okay, awesome. I don't know if anyone else maybe has some last minute questions. I'll leave 30 seconds or so for people to type something in if they want, or they're welcome to unmute if they'd like to. But anyway, thank you both so much. And it's also really cool. Like, I know you both have full-time jobs, as you mentioned, outside of this. So it's just really inspiring that you both like take all of this extra time to create this like really quality content. And I don't know, and you do it so regularly too, so frequently. Like I'm a big fan. I really appreciate all the work you do. And I think organizations across LA would like agree. I really do see like a lot of great like kind of regional collaboration in that aspect. And I think it's really cool. So yeah. Okay. So I don't think we have any more questions. Do you guys have any last remarks you'd like to make before I stop the recording?
Yeah, go vote November 3rd. And how about you?
Yeah, LA County is opening up polls this weekend. So if you haven't mailed in your ballot, you can drop it off there or go vote there. And yeah, hopefully we will see you on Instagram, and thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll
this.
yes, of course. Yeah, and I'll be sure to send out your Instagram handle, and yeah, I'll forward that email address on too. But yeah, everyone should go follow them on Instagram for sure. Highly recommend. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.
Awesome.